because it supports it. I'm going to choose 1080 just so that everything matches with what we've done before, and I'm going to choose OK. So right now we have one scene, and this scene has me full screen here in the webcam. Let's go ahead and add another scene, and let's call this screen. Let's choose OK, and maybe let's rename scene number 1. I'm just going to right click on it, and let's choose rename, and let's call this camera. So we have camera and we have screen. So let's go ahead and add our computer screen for screen here. Click the plus for sources. I'm going to choose screen capture. Now, obviously on Windows, it's not going to be called Mac OS screen capture. It will just be screen capture or display capture. So then we can choose, do we want to capture our entire display, a specific window, or a specific application? In this case, I'm going to choose window. I'm then going to pick the window that we want to use. So I've got a Safari tab here open with YouTube, and then I'm going to hit OK. And we've now got our screen here showing in this tab. Now we also have the ability here to resize this. So you can see here, it's too big at this point. So we can pick this up, we can drag it around. We've got these handles here on the side that we can shrink this down so that it fits. Maybe something like this. Maybe we'll scroll it up so we don't get all those tabs across the top. Okay, second scene created. So the first one, camera, we click on that, and we're on camera. Scene number 2 is our screen. Then it's just our full screen showing YouTube at this case. Now let's say that we wanted to create a scene which is a mix of both. There's a couple of different ways that we could do this, but the easiest way is we've already got this screen 1 set up. Let's duplicate this. Let's right click on this. Let's choose duplicate. Let's give it a name, screen with camera. Let's go OK. So we've got our screen. Make sure we've got this one here, screen with camera selected. We can then hit the plus down here, and we can add in our video capture device here. Now we can either add our existing webcam here, or we can bring it in as a second copy of it, a second instance of it. If we just brought in this one here that we've already created, and then we made changes to it in our other scene, then that would apply to here too. If we want to create our own settings in this specific scene for that, then I would bring it in as a new camera. So we could call it here webcam 1 because it's still camera 1, but maybe we go V2 in this case. So I'm going to choose OK. Again, we would choose our camera Insta360 link. We can choose our quality here. Let's go 1920 by 1080. Let's choose OK. And what we can do now so that we can see both is that we can shrink this down, and we can pick it up, we can move it around, we can really customize this up. I'm sure you guys have seen stuff like this before. Now, if we hold down Option or Alt when we are scaling here, you can see we also have the ability to crop. So let's say that we didn't want this whole shot here of me. We can hold down Option or Alt, and we can just crop this down here so that it's just me. And maybe now we'll scale that up, and maybe we'll move me up here in this case. And we've now got this scene created. So we've got our full screen camera, we've got our screen here where we can click and move around and show our computer screen. And we've got a third one here, screen with camera, which is the same, but obviously with me on camera. So you can see how quick and easy these things are to set up, but also when you're recording or when you're live, you can literally just click on these things here to switch between the different scenes. And you can create a bunch of these different scenes to really build out what you want this to look like. Now you can also see that when I switch between the scenes here, there's like a little transition or a fade between them. We can actually change that here. So the default here is for fade over this amount of time, 300 milliseconds. We could actually change it to a direct cut. So it's just going to switch between these without any fade. So again, we can customize this stuff up. And we can also add a bunch of effects to take the customization to our computer screen for screen here. Click the plus for sources. I'm going to choose screen capture. Now, obviously on Windows, it's not going to be called
have all the ingredients for this in your fridge. But ask yourself this. Of all the times you've made it at home, has it ever tasted like our McMuffin? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.